this video because, I'm still not like mentally great. I don't really see that turning around anytime soon. To be honest, like it's just getting worse and worse. So I don't know, it's helped me cope. But, in feeling particularly bad lately, I've mentioned a few times that I listen to Princella on the High Powered podcast. Although lately I'd kind of taken a little bit of a break from it, more so to I was still always looking at other content, but I wanted to, I guess, like, really, really focus in on other content. But, on my YouTube, a lot of times I have it on autoplay. So it was autoplaying. And, I was just listening, as I do. But, I couldn't help but feel a certain way about. So I know she says the things that she says about like men and stuff like that. And she backs it up with facts and, research papers and statistics and stuff like that. And I think, that's all well and good. But, and I mean, this could just be a personal thing. It probably is, since I do feel like my circumstances are relatively unique. But when she talks about women and like the expectations of women and like what women are capable of and stuff like that, I couldn't help but feel, I guess it's like this mixture of like irritation and also I guess it was mostly irritation. It was some other things, but I'm not feeling particularly eloquent at the moment. I mean, honestly, I should be asleep right now, but mentally I'm so like messed up right now that my brain isn't really working to the capacity that I wish that it was. But anyway, let's just go with, it's got me feeling irritated. Because as someone who has suffered with loneliness for pretty much my entire life, as someone who has never really been social and wasn't because of, different factors that made me feel very unconfident, as someone who, honestly, the way that she describes men, I feel like is more accurate to describe me, really, than the way that she describes women. And I feel like I guess I'm irritated in the sense that and I think I may have also even said this before, but while I don't feel like the things that she says are wrong, I do feel like they're unrealistic in the sense that I feel like a lot of the things that she says are maybe how things maybe should be, but I don't think that they necessarily are, because this whole concept of like, because she said things like, yeah, there's like a loneliness problem, but that's a problem that just affects men because women are social and they have communities and they have each other, and so a woman doesn't have to worry about being alone, and that's a male problem and whatever. And it's like, again, as someone who has struggled with loneliness and friendships and all of that, I'm just kind of like, really? That's only a male problem? There aren't women who are dealing with that same thing? There aren't? I mean, because here's my thing, and I feel like this gets overlooked when she talks about stuff a lot of times. And I guess this is partially why I feel like what she says is true, but unrealistic, or at least not, it doesn't take certain things into account. Or maybe she does, because I kind of get the sense that she does, but also not fully, I guess. What I mean by that is this. So she herself mentions a lot of the times that the reason why, because she'll kind of allude to the fact that the way that she talks about women is more so how they should be versus how they are too, right? But she'll say that like, women, they've been really messed up because of the patriarchy and this, that, and the third, and it needs to be reset. Okay, so my thing is, if you acknowledge the fact that a lot of women do not act in the way that I suppose maybe they should because of the patriarchy, then how can you then say that certain problems do not affect women if they literally do because of the patriarchy? So like, for example, if women feel a necessity to get a man because of the patriarchy, right? And it's a problem that has affected so many women in so many ways, then I feel like, doesn't it also make sense that a lot of women are going to still be enemies of a lot of women because they're seeing them as competition because of the patriarchy? And if women are seeing other women as competition, then they're not exactly being the best friends. They're not. There's a lot of sabotaging. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of distrust. I mean, I've said it before, but women are not angels. Like, I mean, okay, it's nice to know more things about men and everything, but when it comes to women, again, not angels. If women really did operate the way that she says that they should, then I don't think I would be having the problems that I'm having now. Because, it's not just her. I hear other people say stuff like either women can make friends easily with other women, or like what was the other thing? Oh, that like women are created for love and this, that, and the third, right? My thing is though, if that's true, if that's actually true, then why does it seem like that's not reflected in real life? Because I'm gonna be honest, like, yes, I encounter nice women, just like I encounter nice men. But not all women are nice, just like not all men are nice. It just doesn't seem as clear cut as it's made out to be, I feel like. Because I feel like if it were, as I said, I wouldn't be having the issues that I'm having. But I am. And I do think, again, it's because of the things that she said. I do think it's because of the patriarchy, male worship, that kind of thing. But again, because of those things, I do believe that it causes issues such as loneliness that she says that women don't have. But they do. Because here's the other thing. Aside from the fact that patriarchy makes women prioritize relationships a lot of times, like romantic ones rather than friendships, and creates competition with other women. Like, aside from that, you know what else patriarchy does that it specifically did for me? It stripped me of my confidence. It did. It is a huge part, not the full part, but a huge part of why I have always had the issues that I had. Why my socialization isn't as good as it could or should be. That is a result of the patriarchy not working in my favor and making me feel less than. And there are other women like me as well, I'm sure. Other women who also struggle with making friends, with having confidence, with this certain degree of loneliness. And, I mean, even if a girl is considered very pretty, right? You know, that girl that, you know, the patriarchy would, in theory, be the most kind to because pretty privilege. Well, that's not even always the case either. Because, again, even if we say it's the patriarchy, it's like women will be jealous, intimidated, etc. by this woman who's more attractive than her. And so they may try to sabotage her, not actually want to be her friend, you know, might act like her friend, but then end up betraying her. Like, there's so many things. Like, it's hard to trust other women. Especially, again, if we're under the patriarchy, that means that most women are probably affected by this, which means that most women are probably not going to be the best candidates for friendship. And so if they're not the best candidates for friendship, then how exactly are you fostering all of these great social relationships with women? How are you managing to not feel lonely? How is your socialization so great? And I mean, she talks about how, you know, men get birthed into the world and, you know, they're being asked to go against their nature, and it's really hard for them. And as women, we're not supposed to, you know, like we have to be responsible, and you can't expect them to be, and we're this and we're that as women. But like, again, as someone who the patriarchy did not favor, I didn't ask to be here either. I'm struggling too. And so what? You mean to tell me that just because I'm a woman, all the struggles that I've been having and everything, it doesn't matter. I should just discount it because I'm a woman, so I just need to like suck it up? Is that like the mentality? Like, does my suffering, does my, what I've gone through, does that not matter? Does my individuality mean nothing simply because I'm a woman, and therefore, I must have all this inner strength, and I must this and I must that, as if other factors can't affect how I am as an individual? And I mean, I don't know. Maybe I am an exception, like I said towards the beginning. So maybe this just, it just doesn't apply to me the way that it would most people. Maybe this really does apply to most women, and I am just an outlier. Maybe that's the case. But I don't know. I hear it, and it just sort of irritates me because, to me, it kind of conflicts and contradicts. And, another thing, now again, I've never gone to, one of her workshops or whatever to know why she feels that men are incapable of love and stuff like that. So maybe there's something in there that would make me feel differently. But even though I agree with a lot of the things that she says, I still can't help but feel like certain things, they're still true, what she says, but I don't think it's... So, like, okay, for example, a lot of the things that she says are male nature. I'm inclined to agree. Like, okay, yes, that is male nature. A man may naturally be inclined to do certain things. But I have a hard time believing that can't be manipulated. And maybe that sounds bad, but what I mean is this. If we're going to say that the way that the male is naturally is not good, like if it's a lot of negative traits, right? Then I still feel like those traits can be, like, I feel like you can change them. But I do think it takes a lot of effort. Don't get me wrong. I think it takes a lot of effort. But I do think that it's possible to do so. And I just, because I've watched different videos and stuff like that. And I just can't help but feel like certain things could be transformed with like a mindset shift. Because, like, for example, I watched a video where she was speaking about like I think I talked about this before, where it was like, it was talking about like black women who had gotten pregnant by some black men, um, but they weren't really like stepping up. And if you were to consider this a study, I'm still tired and should be asleep. So if I'm taking even longer to talk than I usually do, I apologize. But and I'm not necessarily recalling all the information as well as I wish I was. So I can't remember if it actually was a study or if it just was information that could be used as if it were a study. But the thing is, yes, a lot, if not all of the men in that situation had a propensity for not sticking around, not trying to step up for their kids, wanting to sleep with different women. Like, that's seen all the time, right? But I've always felt like that sort of mentality, like, it's not to say that a man doesn't want to naturally sleep with a bunch of women. I think he probably does. But I also think that it's something that is promoted. Because, okay, my thing is this, right? I feel like another thing that gets said about men a lot of times is that their followers, right? They will pick something or do something or whatever because status, ego, all of that is very important to them. And so sometimes they will make choices that aren't even like, it's done more so. Okay, let me just give an example rather than trying to explain this because I am too tired. But for example, a man could be attracted to, and I've said this before, a bigger woman. But because society tends to not favor that, doesn't favor the look, I guess, of bigger women or whatever, generally speaking, even though he may genuinely be attracted to her, may genuinely like her as a person and all this stuff, he'll go and he'll get more so with the girl who society has deemed worthy, quote unquote, has deemed to be beautiful, has deemed to be like, oh, if you have this girl, then, you know, this is really what says something about you, says a lot about you as an individual if you were able to get this type of girl. And so that's who he ends up choosing, even if he doesn't necessarily genuinely like her that much, or even if he does, not as much as he liked the other woman, right? But my point in saying that is just to show that that is how strong I think the whole thing of like influence, like how much they can be influenced, right? And so I say that to say that right now I feel like in culture, the thing that is most influenced is for men to have a bunch of women. Like, it's not a matter of it just being a man's nature. It's also reinforced because that is what men are told. But what if men were told something else? Like, right now, I think the thing is, if you're a man, then what shows that you're a man, what makes you a man, is having a bunch of women. So even if a man, I feel like even if a man didn't necessarily want to do that, right? Like, even if that wasn't something that he felt naturally inclined to do, if he wants to be a man, and that is what is considered being a man, then that is what he's going to do. So to me, it's not necessarily the act of wanting a bunch of women in itself. It's the wanting to be a man. And so you do the things that it takes to be considered a man. But I don't think that those traits are really upheld and uplifted in society. I don't think that it's very common that you hear that, like, hey, you need to step up, you need to do this, you need to do that in order to really be a man. So I say all that to say that I feel like saying that they're incapable doesn't really seem fair, in the sense that if the reason why it's being said that they're incapable is because they stay in their lower nature and therefore do not have the desire, willpower, whatever you want to call it, in order to do better or to do differently. Man, I should go to sleep. But my thing is, I think that if that's the case, essentially all I'm saying is this: if men were to be molded to actually think differently, I think it would be possible. But because there's really no incentive, because no one is molding them in that direction, no one is saying, hey, this is what you need to do. And even if people are saying it, it's not enough people saying it, and it's maybe not the right people saying it, because the people saying it aren't as influential and they have a lot to lose if they say a message that isn't popular. So I get it. But I'm just saying that, like, it doesn't mean that they're incapable. It means that the right stimuli are not in place in order for it to happen. So overall, I just feel like the message it makes sense. I think that the message that she gives makes sense. But I also think that it makes sense, but it's not I think it just doesn't take certain things into account. And I feel very hesitant to say it because I feel like she does take so many things into account. And so, I don't want to say that she hasn't, because I feel like she probably has. But at the same time, in certain ways and like to a certain degree, I guess I'm just not seeing it. It feels in certain respects just like certain points are missed. I personally am not really seeing them be addressed, which bothers me. So I guess that's my thing. And I don't know, maybe, I mean, if we go back to like my main topic too, as far as just the way that like women are, or the way that she seems to perceive women, I guess maybe her thought is, you know, if she continues to spread her message that more women will become the type of woman that she's referring to. And I think that that's all well and good and everything, but it doesn't address the problem of like the right now, in the sense of like, again, okay, yeah, women might have the potential for this. Maybe if enough women are talked about, or sorry, talked to, then, you know, things will start to change. Women will be this way that she refers to a lot of the time. But you're lying. Sorry, I'm playing this game too. So I'm sleepy and I'm playing a game while I'm doing this. But yeah, so you know, potentially women would be how she says, but you know, that would take, again, women converting to this, which means that they're not, which means that to say women won't be lonely and women are social and women have all these whatever, I don't know how true that really is. But again, I could just be the exception to the rule. And like, you know, not in a good way, unfortunately. So, I mean, maybe it is just a me problem. And if I am the exception, then, I mean, what can I really say, right? Because she does speak in generalities, not absolutes. But I don't know, man. Even when I was trying to make friends on like, you know, friendship making apps or in real life or whatever, I don't really see women putting a lot of effort in. So it seems to me as if it's not something, like, despite what they say, it's not actually something that they're really trying to have or foster, as far as like having these close-knit relationships with other women. Like, it doesn't really seem like a thing, if I'm honest. Just doesn't. So, yeah, I don't know. But, I am changing the name of this video to really accentuate the fact that I am sleep deprived, because I know I usually talk pretty slow to try to get my thoughts together before I say them, but like, this is ridiculous. I know it. I need to go to sleep. But still, as sleepy as I am or whatever, I've still been upset lately. Honestly, the only reason I'm even up is because I was so upset yesterday. I spent most of the day sleeping, so I messed up my sleep schedule a decent amount. I did. I messed it up. But I don't know. I needed to vent. I'm trying to cope. It's not going too well. But I don't know. If someone actually listens to this, I'll be pretty surprised anyway. But if you did, thanks. Hope your life is going and your mental health is going better than mine. And I guess I'll see you in the next